Mercury retrograde is a dreaded fear for many people because they believe that it causes chaos whenever it occurs. But did you know that you're actually being deceived? All the troubles blamed on Mercury retrograde are just products of sensationalism by the media to grab attention. In simple terms, Mercury retrograde is the biggest lie in the history of astrology. So today, let's unravel in detail all the tricks behind this phenomenon. So, what is Mercury retrograde? First, we need to understand the concept of retrograde is an astronomical phenomenon where at certain times planets appear to move backward in their usual orbit when observed from the Earth. In essence, all the planets and celestial bodies in the solar system have retrograde phases. However, Mercury has long been portrayed as a troublemaker, causing havoc and driving people crazy. Why is that? Let's explore the origin of this phenomenon. The first mention of Mercury retrograde was in the almanac Vox Stellarum, or a loyal almanac published on December 9, 1754. This book was written for farmers who believed that the movement of the planets affected crop yields. However, it only became an international nuisance in the late 19th century. So, what happened that messed everything up like that? And it all started when mainstream astrologers continuously criticized Mercury retrograde, claiming it contributed to heavy rainfall. Here is a photo from the Astrologers magazine, Volume 5, published in 1895, and the book The Science of the Stars, published in 1881, discussing Mercury retrograde. Thanks to that, fake news about Mercury retrograde began to spread widely. As a result, Mercury retrograde was depicted as a sinister force secretly sabotaging people's lives. However, Mercury retrograde only became a part of popular culture when the media started to exaggerate its impact. The peak of this trend was in April 1979, when the Baltimore Sun, a popular newspaper at the time, urged readers to stop doing anything during Mercury retrograde phase. Since then, Mercury retrograde has officially become the scapegoat for unfortunate events, from broken phones and malfunctioning gadgets to data loss, conflicts, misunderstanding, frustration, work troubles, system errors, and even digestive problems. All blame is conveniently placed on Mercury retrograde. As a result, every Mercury retrograde season brings a flood of astrologers discussing disasters, spreading fear across the internet about the impending calamities. So, it's time for you to liberate yourself from the exaggerated and misleading psychological attacks mentioned above. In other words, everything the media feeds you about Mercury retrograde is deceptive. But to achieve this, you need to apply a bit of reasoning. Now, let's use logic to dispel the myths surrounding the Mercury retrograde. Many people fear Mercury retrograde primarily due to online gonings, and it's true that sometimes there are troubles during this period. However, two phenomena happening simultaneously doesn't necessarily mean they are causally related. They could both be influenced by a third factor or simply occur together by chance. This is a key point. Let's consider two examples. Example number 1. During summer, the demand for sunscreen and sunblock increases. However, these two events don't directly impact each other. The scorching summer heat is a common factor driving up both demands. Example number 2. Every morning you go to school while your neighbor goes to the market. But these are two random events happening at the same time. So your going to school doesn't cause your neighbor to go to the market or vice versa. Similarly, Mercury retrograde and the challenges you face may not necessarily have a causal relationship, and this is something you need to be consciously aware of. However, I understand that many people have a superstitious mindset and may advise you not to do anything important during such sensitive times, as why they got that disasters may be unavoidable. Now, let's present some additional evidence. Do you know that many of the world's most powerful companies were founded during Mercury retrograde? Specifically, let's examine the top 30 largest publicly traded companies with the most shareholders in the United States. These companies collectively make up the Dow Jones Industrial Average, a crucial stock market index. Although the list may change over time, there are consistently around 8 to 10 companies in the top 30 Dow Jones that were founded during this sensitive period. In the current top 30 US companies, 8 were incorporated during Mercury retrograde season. Number 1. Johnson & Johnson. Number 2. Procter & Gamble. Number 3. Apple. Number 4. Cisco Systems. Number 5. Boeing. Number 6. McDonald's. Number 7. Microsoft. And number 8. Caterpillar. As a result, 8 divided by 30 multiplied by 100% equals 26.67%, or more than 1/4 of the strongest companies in the US were incorporated during Mercury retrograde season. Each period of Mercury retrograde typically lasts about 3 weeks, occurring 3 to 4 times a year. For simplicity, let's take the average as 3.5 times per year. This means we have approximately 3.5 multiplied by 21 equals 73.5 days of Mercury retrograde each year. Consequently, the average annual Mercury retrograde rate is approximately 70.5 divided by 365 multiplied by 100% equals 20.14%. Now, let's do some simple math. The average annual Mercury retrograde occurrence is approximately 20.14%, but the rate of successful companies incorporated during Mercury retrograde is 26.67%, higher than the Mercury retrograde rate. As a result, it seems that companies incorporated during Mercury retrograde season have a higher likelihood of success than failure, contrary to the rumors. In other words, does Mercury retrograde really bring about disasters as suggested, when more than 1/4 of the most powerful US companies were incorporated during this sensitive period? Moreover, many exceptionally successful products were launched during Mercury retrograde season, including number 1. iPhone and Apple iOS operating system. Number 2. Microsoft Windows operating system. Number 3. Ford Mustang supercar. According to pop astrologers, Mercury rules communication and traveling, so it should also rule car and phone. So with the logic of fearmongers, Mercury retrograde would destroy these products. However, history has proven this product to be extremely successful. Additionally, many highly successful people in fields ruled by Mercury, such as singing, were born during Mercury retrograde, including Madonna, Michael Jackson, Adam Levine, Lady Gaga, Justin Bieber, Rihanna, to name but a few. Basically, Mercury retrograde is entirely normal, and we might be overcomplicating the issue. But the reason people pay attention to Mercury retrograde is because it rarely occurs. So the hype around Mercury retrograde is similar to a progressive thinker appearing in a conservative crowd. The conservative crowd, unfamiliar with change, tends to reject the forward-thinking individual. Now, it's time for me to present the final argument against Mercury retrograde. People think retrograde planets are bad because they rarely happen. And this belief applies to all planets, not just Mercury. Many people consider Mars retrograde bad, Jupiter retrograde terrible, Saturn retrograde super dangerous, and so on. But there are two truths that only those who deeply study astrology from a scientific perspective know. And now I'll share two secrets with you. First, Pope astrologers unanimously agree that the tri-aspect between Jupiter and Sun is extremely beneficial. However, this aspect only exists when Jupiter is retrograde. So, if Jupiter retrograde is bad, should we consider the tri-aspect between Jupiter and Sun as good? Secondly, very few people know that there are special celestial bodies in the solar systems, always in retrograde motion. Specifically, in the solar system, celestial bodies usually move counterclockwise, but these special bodies always move clockwise. For example, Dioresa, Messias, and Ka Epokawala are all retrograde asteroids. When observed from Earth, the retrograde motion of these minor planets happens at least 4 times more than Mercury retrograde. So if retrograde motion is considered bad, these 3 minor asteroids above should be the most evil astral bodies. But have you ever heard about them in the media? I bet you haven't, unless you have extensive knowledge of astronomy and astrology. The fearmongers purposefully scare you when a normal planet like Mercury is in retrograde motion, but don't condemn these 3 minor planets that almost always retrograde. The reason they criticize and vilify Mercury but overlook Dioresa, Messias, Ka Epokawala is that Mercury is a common, well-known planet. So this is a toxic double standard of those who spread fear to grab attention, get views, generate engagement, and sell advertisements. Even worse, many of them claim to be genuine astrologers, always loyal to the truth. Now, what about the troubles you face during Mercury retrograde? Are they caused by it? In reality, troubles are part of life. If you want to be objective, please compare the amount of trouble you face during Mercury retrograde with a time when it's not in retrograde motion. But many of us tend to blind fear. This is an opening for scammers and the media to take advantage. I've conducted statistics and found that my personal troubles during Mercury retrograde are not higher than when it's not happening. Moreover, I have identified 2 factors directly affecting life's challenges. First, your personal astrological cycles have the most influence. For example, during heartbreak cycle, you're more likely to face challenges. However, personal astrological cycles vary for each person. Second, misfortune often occurs on bad universal astrological days, but this factor doesn't influence as much as the first one. As a result, problems arise on days when both your personal astrological cycles and universal astrological days are unfavorable. As for Mercury retrograde, it may cause some issues and troubles, but is certainly not as dangerous as long-lasting rumors and accusations suggest. Astrology originated as a scientific field. Many great scientists in human history studied, like Isaac Newton, Johannes Kepler, Galileo Galilei, and Benjamin Franklin. They approached astrology scientifically. However, after the golden age of astrology, subsequent generations stopped studying astrology from a scientific perspective. Instead, they use very unscientific approaches. For example, they resorted to mythology to borrow the meaning of a planet. Many people believe that asteroid Chiron represents a good healer just because the mythological character Chiron couldn't heal his own good. So today, astrology is no longer considered a mainstream scientific field. Even worse, some view it as pseudoscience. If you've come this far, you probably have faith in astrology, just like me, and you are not alone. In 2012, 34% of the US population believed that astrology had a scientific basis. And in 2022, 27% of the US believe that the movements of the celestial bodies truly affect life on Earth. However, choosing a form of astrology based on scientific principles is not easy amidst the chaos of the current market. One reason is that astrology today is often simplified into generic horoscope prediction for the 12 zodiac signs. By 2023, the world population has reached 8 billion. So how can you divide 8 billion people into 12 groups, each with more than 666 million people, and accurately predict for all? Is impossible. That's why a 2012 survey showed that 76% of respondents believe that astrology had a scientific basis, but only 43% believe that horoscope predictions were based on science. When astrology is studied and practiced from a scientific perspective, it becomes much more sophisticated and intricate than casual horoscope predictions. Here are two astrology natal charts as examples. The first chart is a basic one using only 10 fundamental planets, and it looks quite simple, doesn't it? However, the second chart is the same natal chart but includes additional important planets, asteroids, midpoints, making it much more complex. But then it may not be as user-friendly for the general public. Therefore, if you truly want to delve into astrology and seek advice from it, be cautious before putting your trust in the chaotic and often misleading astrology market, where genuine and misleading information can easily get mixed up. Follow my channel and join my Facebook group Multiverse Astrology if you want to learn astrology with a truly scientific approach. And if you have any comments, drop them below. I'll respond when I'm free. And if you want to schedule an astrology consulting session with me, please inbox or check the link below. Love you guys very much. See you again in next videos. Goodbye.